Hello, everyone. I'm Gwen Callahan. I am one of the co-directors of the HP Lovecraft Film Festival and Cthulhu Con. And this is our December streaming event for 2023. And this is the Q&A for short films block 4. I am joined this evening by Heather Humpelman from Whisper in the Static, which was actually the winner of the best short film for the festival. Yay! Thanks for being here, Heather.
Thanks for having me. You guys are great.
We also have Joe Solomon coming to us from London, and his film was Forever Flowers. And we have Eric of Lily and Eric. Hopefully Lily can join us for a little bit.
Hopefully.
They are here in Portland, Oregon. And it sounds like they are working madly on a puppet television show. Am I allowed to share that?
Sure. Please do.
Okay. And their short film was The Summoning at Danforth Manor, which was filmed here in Portland, Oregon, using a lot of local talent. So we're always excited when locals make a nice cosmic horror, supernatural horror film for us to show at the festival and showcase the many talented filmmakers that actually live in this city. So welcome and thank you again for being here. We have questions from some of the audience that posted earlier that had seen it in the theater that didn't get to necessarily stay for the Q&A. So I've gotten to talk to Heather and Joe because you guys so kindly came out to the festival to join us. But I didn't get to talk to Eric or Lily. So I'm going to start with you guys.
Okay.
With your Summoning at Danforth Manor is a very classic seance gone wrong because people can't follow instructions. You break the circle. Can you tell us a little bit about in the background of the film, like kind of what the story inception was, and how you gathered your various characters in your cast?
Sure. Well, oddly enough, we were putting together a sizzle reel. We have a studio here in Portland, and we were putting together ideas for a sizzle reel. And a couple of the ideas were like the vapor coming out of the mouth, the Pepper's ghost, just the sort of glimpses of a seance. And Lily said, why don't we just make a short film with a seance? And we are avid theater goers. And so we just sort of, mostly Lily started riffing on what kind of characters would go to a seance. You know, we read up a little bit on seances, how popular they were, and how sort of the high society people would attend these exclusive things. We racked our brains for what theater people we knew who were available for a 48-hour film, and put together a who's who of local talent to help us out.
It's so cool. So did you make it for a 48-hour film contest, or did you just kind of put that limitation on yourself?
Well, our budget was such that we knew we couldn't go whole hog, and we had applied for and not made it into a 48-hour film fest at Movie Madness, at Portland's local movie video store. They only took the first 15 applicants, so we were just too late. And we thought, well, we still want to do it. So we thought, let's just do the movie we want to make. And then we remembered you guys and thought, this could be a nice fit.
Nice. Well, yay! I'm glad that you decided to make the film anyway. We pre-recorded the Lovecraft Under the Gun 72-hour film contest Q&A earlier, and that'll be available for people to watch tomorrow. But someone mentioned that having that hard time limit is often helpful when trying to finish your film, because you can't just tinker with it forever.
Right.
But having that hard limit like really kind of makes you be a little more efficient, more creative, and then at the end of it you have a finished film.
Yeah, I remember distinctly sitting and watching the other films in our block, Whispering the Dogs, and I'm thinking I wish we had taken some more time. But the nature of the film was such that it was kind of fun to do it quickly and take it very seriously, but have a lot of fun with it. And the actors came in, we shot for 2 afternoons of about 4 hours each. Okay. And got all the footage from them very quickly and with a great deal of laughter.
Oh, cool. Well, good. It looked like everyone was having a good time despite the horrors unfolding around them.
True. Everyone left with soggy socks. The fog machine was going nonstop, and it was just enough. It was really cranking, and everybody from the knee down, it was like we'd all walk through puddles.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh. Heather with Whisper and the Static. Um, it's a really interesting story concept. How did you come up with it?
Yeah, well, so our writer, Nathan Carter, he had a stack of short stories, and we were like, okay, we really want to work on something together. And so um, I read them, our producer read them, and the one that stood out to both of us, we were like, wow, there's like, this is so interesting. There's so much to sink your teeth into. We both started kind of like picturing it. We're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this one. So um yeah, that's why we're really drawn to it. I think Nathan, he had been going through a really hard time when he wrote it. He was like, I think for him it was about like I think the pressures of like groupthink on the internet actually, or something like that. And but it was interesting because when we all read the script, sorry, when we all read the story, we all the static became different things to each of us, and that was just really cool. We were like, okay, there's a lot here, you know?
Interesting. Okay. And then your cast was just pretty much all women. And is that
Yeah.
something reflected in the story as well, or is that something you decided that we're just going to make this movie with all women?
Yeah, so when we first read the short story, the character names were actually sort of neutral. And I read it and I guess I was a little biased reading it and I was like, oh great. For instance, like one of the characters' names is Maddie. And Nathan pictured a guy when he wrote it, but I had a friend who was named Maddie and she was a girl. So I was like, oh yeah, this is like all girls. I think so we didn't start out going, we're gonna make this an all women cast, but we were going through people for the detective and one of the like Maite, she had such a great performance, and one of the reasons we chose her actually was because when we had the characters read with some of the gentlemen, it kind of lent this like kind of this subtext of like maybe men not believing women, and we were like, there's already so many layers to this. Let's just, you know, we wanted it to be I felt I was like, her story, at least the story is ludicrous on its own. Let's just keep it let's just keep it cleaner. And yeah, and Maite just was such a great fit. And so it kind of just happened that way, but I think it's pretty cool and I'm glad we did it in the end.
Nice. I want to ask you about some of the shots in the film, because it really puts you in the mind frame of the character. So like when she jumps off the cliff and you just get the POV just going down, like how did you guys accomplish that? Did you just literally like throw a camera off of a cliff? Like what's going on with that?
That's such a good question. I for the cliff specifically, yeah, we had a long, thin tripod. We stuck one of our like less loved cameras onto it, and then yeah, we just sort of ran it over. And we did a lot of takes trying to get something believable, but also we didn't actually want to damage the camera. So yeah, that one. But we were prepared to sacrifice it. In hindsight, maybe we should have done something like, a GoPro or something. But yeah, we wanted that running leap. So yeah, that one was a tripod and a lot of courage.
Okay. Well, it looks really good. I mean, like
Thank you.
when you're watching it, you're like, oh my God, they throw their camera off of the thing. Um, yeah, I'm gonna let
Nathan,
Joe. Sorry.
Nathan was prepared to. He was totally prepared. He will do anything for the shot. But yeah, you know, our producer was like, don't.
Like, please.
Don't do it.
Okay. I'm gonna cycle back around. Joe, I'm gonna try to talk while it looks like your internet maybe is being a little troublesome. So while you're here, I'll ask you this. With Forever Flowers, it really the the start of it, any Lovecraft fan, I think, is going to recognize sort of the come on of the short story The Terrible Old Man by H.P. Lovecraft. And is that something that you had in mind when you wrote this story?
I didn't write the story.
Okay.
So um, I asked our writer after the festival, I'd like, have you read this story? And she said no. But it was obviously very interesting when I was at the festival that this came up, because now she is dying to read the story. um, so no, she hadn't read the story. Her name is Francesca Lin, and she's Taiwanese Canadian, but currently living in the UK.
Okay. Okay, wow. Yeah, so in the beginning of The Terrible Old Man, if you haven't read it, read it. It's fantastic. There's an entire digital archive at hplovecraft.com that was created and is maintained by Donovan Lux, who's a Lovecraft scholar, and his main focus is on like the locations that Lovecraft went to and lived in. But he's got like an entire digital archive on there, so you can read read most of the stories on the internet there. But the come on is that like thieves are basically plotting to rob an old man who they've heard stories about how he has a treasure like hidden in his house. So the caregiver and her boyfriend like
Yes.
scene in their house, like they have all this stuff, and then when you discover the reason why they have all that stuff, it just becomes more of like a trap, and you're like, oh my god. So um and in your story, the one character is a man, and he's very unlikable because like the scene where he's like putting on all the stuff and he comes downstairs, he does like the chin bob to the lady. She's like, what's up, I'm stealing all your stuff, what do you do about it? And then the rest of the characters are women, so it was interesting. That was an interesting choice. Is that how it was written as well?
Yeah. Actually, no. It wasn't. It was originally an old man and an old woman and a young. It was two straight couples basically, and I was like, "Can we queer this up, please?" And the writer said, "Yeah, sure." So then it became two women, and I kind of liked how that went. It was interesting. And I think what I loved about the story is that you had you had one person in each couple who was very single-minded. They knew what they wanted. The young guy and one of the older ladies, Rose, knew exactly what they wanted. And they from the minute they both saw each other, they knew what they were going for. And what I quite liked with the other characters is both the younger woman, Danny, and Lily, they've actually formed a real bond, and they're reluctant to go there. They kind of get manipulated by their partners to do that. And I also liked the concept of one of the aliens forming a bond with a human and actually feeling uncomfortable for the first time doing what she's done for years. So that was an aspect of the storyline that really appealed to me. And also there's the sense of what you were talking about theme-wise, the kind of concept of these older people are the haves and we're the kind of young have-nots. And that sense of, well, if I don't have what you have, I'm just going to take it. And there are consequences to that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna scoot back to Eric because I want to ask you about some of the actual practicalities of filming the seance. I know you mentioned like the smoke coming out of the mouth and things. Was pretty much everything that's on screen a practical effect?
Yes. The exteriors, that's a 1/24th scale wooden model, a dollhouse. And we had some cotton batting and backlighting, and we shot in miniature what we could and got everything else in camera.
Okay. Do you mind sharing some of your tricks and talking about how you accomplish some of those effects?
Uh, The house was tricky because the biggest special effect was using black and white, because it meant that the costumes we had on hand worked, even though they looked garish and ridiculous in color. And it was quite a cheat. It was a nice cheat being able to go black and white. It's Guy Madden's favorite trick, is not having to art direct to the fine tune that is required of a normal short film if you go black and white and make it a feature, not a flaw, but it's a silent. Fog is always a great special effect in backlighting. You know, if you can get those things to work on camera, it's going to look pretty decent. And we've got a lot of space here, but we only had about 200 square feet dedicated to the movie. So we had to make the most of that with wide lenses and fog.
That's small. That's a small space.
Small.
So where did you shoot the interiors? Is that you said you have a studio there. Was that in your studio?
Yeah, we have a studio right here in the east side of Portland called Portlandlandia, where we had a few bays of photo rentals and video rentals where like local artists would make music videos or do photo shoots or do small short promotional films. And we keep a segment of the studio in the back. We've since converted to a full-time TV production. We've got 8 working sets right now, but all 5,000 square feet is now devoted to filming locales. So we've got 8 full-size sets and puppet fabrication. A local puppet troupe is helping with that. We've got Pegasus Puppets working on that with us. So again, local talent, trying to get local people involved and have fun.
Oh, that's so cool. Let's see, Heather, it's your turn. With the cast, we noted that one of your actors, I think Scarlett Red, is also in a film called Dead Enders, and we're just wondering how you came upon her and cast her in your film.
She's phenomenal, and I think she's in a bunch of stuff now. Yeah, when we we had a casting director and they introduced us to her, and she was great, and we met, and she was saying that she was actually, she's really successful in like doing a bunch of commercials, but she's like, I'm trying to get more into horror. And we were like, we'd love to have you be a part of this. And she knocked it out of the park, and I think is just doing so many more like horror kind of projects. And yeah, it's been great. Dead Enders is amazing, and we're just so proud of her.
She in the scene when they're in the rodeos, or no, when Maddie comes and finds them, and she's just shoving cake in her face, like eating cake. Was she actually eating that cake, or was that like was she just like pretending to eat it? But can you talk about that a little bit?
Scarlett commits 100% to everything she does. Yeah, so we had this giant sheet cake from sheet cake from Ralph's, and we were like, yeah, here's a spit bucket. Obviously, you wouldn't want to eat the whole thing. And she's like, no, I'm gonna do this. And our crew kind of watched in horror. The next hour, we were like, do you need the bucket? And she's like, no, I'm good. She ate the entire cake over she was commitment is the word.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's making my teeth hurt now. Just wow. So she ate the whole thing, but you got the shots that you needed.
Yeah.
Really real.
Yeah, she's great.
So for the other actress with her, and Maddie, their interactions were interesting because they're kind of after the same thing, but they're at first Maddie's a little bit not combative, but maybe a little aggressive, and sort of indignant, like, oh, you don't want me, but like you'll take these people. Like, what are you doing? You're eating cake. Like, we were flying together.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, the dynamic between those 3 characters?
Yeah, not unlike the team that made it, I feel like these characters each had their own experience with the static and had, they each have a different relationship. And Elisa's relationship is definitely deeper. She spent more time with it. And I think she let it in more, and so it's able to hurt her a little bit deeper. Yeah, I think, I think Maddie and Jillian haven't spent as much time with it, so they're still more in that exploratory phase. Like things haven't gone bad yet for them. So, but as you know, then they do. So
Then they
then they do.
so the main character, I can never remember the character.
Yes, sorry, Elise, yes.
Elise is the main
Played by
character.
Sadie Dickinson.
Okay. She was wonderful. Is she a dancer? Because she was very convincing as a ballet dancer.
We were convinced we would have to hire an actress and a dancer separately. We were like, she has a 3-minute monologue. We have to get a real actress, and someone who can really. That's got to be the most important thing. But we like hired her, and we were talking to her, and we were like, you don't happen to have any like athletic background? And she's like, I was a like professional gymnast for like 7 years. We were like, oh, that sounds really hard. She's like, yeah. And we're like, can you do like a run and like a leap? And like, she's like, I could totally do that. And so, yeah, that was actually her, and it was no problem. And I think she had like 0 prep time. She was like, yeah, I'll just do it. So that was such a lucky coincidence. And we had so many of those. I feel like, someone the other day was like, what is filmmaking? And I was like, just a series of lucky coincidences, honestly. And some unlucky ones. But I feel like I was, there were a couple things on our shoot that, a handful that didn't go the way we necessarily wanted them to go. But then later, you kind of looking back on it all and reflecting, and you're like, actually, that turned out for the best. So that was, I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Nice. Good. Back to Joe. You have a few special effects in your film. Can you talk about those? Like, who created those effects and the looks of them, and then actually did the work on them?
So I was at another film festival a couple of years ago, and one of the guys I was on a panel with had done a short horror. And basically, I interrogated him afterwards and said, how did you do those special effects? And he recommended this amazing college in London called Escape Studios, where basically all these MA students had helped him with his special effects. So I contacted the college, and they assigned me 11 students per shot. And I met them for 2 months every week, and they just were working on each shot with me. And it was just an amazing experience. Yeah, it was fantastic. And yeah, they were completely devoted. And each time the kind of main professor was there with them, kind of running through everything. So I was so lucky, so lucky. Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. That sounds like a really cool program too, that they get some real world experience like while they're in school. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious about like things like that. Like, how do you convey like, this is what I want it to look like? And like, somebody designed that first though, correct?
So I worked with an amazing storyboard artist, and she was phenomenal. So everything that I asked for, she just did beautifully on the storyboard. And so it was very easy to kind of talk to the DP and the whole team about what we were looking for, because she created it so beautifully on the storyboard. The one funny little incident though is when you see both people in the young couple in the eye of one of the women. We were doing this. We were in just some local, like a very nice family's house, and we had a green screen behind them when they were screaming and shouting. And it was the only time where I thought, oh my God, they might call the police in. They both actors were really going for it, and they were screaming like, oh, let me out, let me out. So yeah, I was a little bit concerned, and the family who let us film in their house were like, what is going on in there? But that was really fun.
Have they seen the film? now that it's
They
finished? But did they
they
like it?
have they have seen the film, and yes, they really do like it. And unfortunately, I've been the lucky one going to all these festivals. I would love like both of them, or or all of them to come with me, but maybe at one time that'll happen.
Cool. Let's see. I know that I've asked you and Heather questions before because I've done your Q&As, and now I'm trying to remember, like, did I already ask them that question, and like which question did I ask? So I guess let me ask Heather, is there things about your film that you would like to share with us, any behind the scenes, or like something that was maybe something that was particularly hard to shoot that you think came out really well at the end that you're like really psyched about?
Well, talking about visual effects, so I was really inspired by K-pop, and I was like, okay, for the eyes, we're gonna do cool contacts, and they're gonna be really, we're gonna do the effects with colored contacts. And just in the hubbub of just planning and craziness and everything, I forgot to test them out in advance. So we get on set, and yeah, Scarlett goes to put them in, and she comes over and she's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "About what?" She's like, "The contacts." And I was like, "What? I can't. You're not wearing anything." She's like, "They're in right now." I was like, "Oh." And
Oh
I
no.
was like, "All right, we'll just have to do this in post," which is really not something you really want to utter. And it was like day one, but anyway, we ended up deciding to do a lot of that in post. And actually, because we did that, I think we were able to do some really cool, like some of my favorite stuff is like the way it like swirls on, and it's so much more alive in a way that it never would have been if the context would have worked, so um that's that's a cool behind the scenes. I have so many stories. Yeah. It's yeah, it's like we had to this one of the great stressors is we had to get this like special lamp because we were almost hitting people, and you can't do that without like it has to be like a rubber prop, otherwise um yeah, SAG won't allow it. So we had to get this like lamp, and then um get this get someone to like fabricate this like the rubber version, and that was a lot of fun, but also I was like, is this even possible? And then our line producer, his dad runs this architectural, they make little scale models of things, and he was like, oh yeah, that's super easy. And I was like, magic, what you've described is magic. I didn't know this existed. This is so cool. So yeah, I probably have a story about everything, Gwen. It was just, nothing was easy, but it was all a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, are you a Lovecraft fan? Or were you before this?
I definitely am now. Yeah, because we came to the Rhode Island, the Providence event that you guys did, and then Casey, the producer, and I, we went up and we did like the walking tour of the places like in Salem where he was really inspired, and I was like, this is so cool. And we went home, and um uh this one of my favorite podcasts, Dungeons and Daddies, they do this like they did this like playthrough of like it's called it's the Mountains of Madness basically, and that's got Cthulhu elements, and it's so cool, and I'm a huge fan now. But I think what I also haven't realized before is that Lovecraft is, it's seeped in everywhere in culture, and like in all the stories. That's why when Joe was like, "Oh yeah, our writer hadn't known about it," I'm like, maybe she did. You know what I mean? Because it's everywhere. It's so pervasive. So, um, I'm definitely a huge fan now. You guys are great.
Yes, a convert. Eric, how about you? Are you a Lovecraft fan?
Sure. Yeah, and I'd attended the festival a few times. So I was sort of swirling around in the back of my head as we were doing it. And I realized like, oh, well, I should send it to those guys. Maybe they'd get a kick. Like
I'm glad you did.
a little comic relief in between the heavier pieces.
Well, there's this book called The Witch of Lime Street that's about really about Houdini putting up the prize for
Right.
investigators trying to either, like, I guess, like, what's the word?
Debunk.
No, he was trying to find like proof positive evidence of
Ah,
like the supernatural, and like it never happened. But the whole book is kind of about this woman who does seances, and it's set in the World War I era, where the spiritualism movement really started and picked up speed. So it really kind of reminded me of that. So I was like, I wish there was more. Somebody needs to make a movie out of this book. And there's the Houdini Lovecraft connection with the Under the Pyramids,
right, right.
with Houdini figuring into that. So that might have been a joint production of Lovecraft and somebody else. I don't remember now, but yeah, that was the whole spiritual movement in that time period is just like really rich with like inspiration for different kind of creepy stories.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It was one of the most popular mediums. The one that we read about was the wife of a surgeon.
Mhm.
And surgeons then, like surgeons now, were extremely well paid. But she made a tremendous amount of money and was terrifically popular, traveling all over New England and visiting the homes of mayors and captains of industry, doing these seances. I've forgotten her name, unfortunately. I don't have my notes with me, but she was multiple times they tried to debunk her methods. There were famous sisters that were using they could crack the knuckles of their toes to make sounds and do all sorts of other trickery, but they never figured out her. And I thought, we want to model sort of after her. We want it to seem legit, just a little less heavy.
And Joe, are you a Lovecraft fan?
Oh, totally. Yeah, you've definitely converted me. I absolutely loved it. I loved the audiences. I loved everyone I met in Portland. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah, loved it.
Best audience.
Seriously, amazing. It was absolutely a fantastic experience. I loved it. And I loved how committed and passionate audiences were about horror. It was great.
It's the best festival our team has gone to, and we've been to a couple this year. Quite a few. It's just hands down, echoing everything Joe said.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate hearing that. We do it for the audience, and we do it for you guys to have a platform to show your amazing independent films at. And we do it because we love the genre, we love film, and we love gathering people together to watch movies together as a group experience. Really think that it's a much different experience when you watch a film with a bunch of other people that have the same interests. So it's really lovely for us to have all of that come together. So thank you for being part of it.
I had a film professor once said that yeah, watching movies together, it's dreaming in the dark together. And I thought that, it's very beautiful.
Definitely, it's true. Well, I think we should probably wrap up and let you guys go and let our audience go on to the next film. But it was a pleasure talking with all of you. It was really nice to meet you, Eric, and nice to see you and Heather and Joe again. Before we say goodbye, I'd love for you to let our audience know where they can find you online, where they can hear more about your upcoming projects, or find out more about the current Whisper in the Static and Summoning at Danforth Manor and Forever Flowers. Heather, you go ahead first.
Yeah, we have an Instagram, Whisper in the Static. We have a website, whisperinthestatic.com. I'd love for you to follow along as we work on the feature,
Oh, okay. So I'm glad you mentioned that you were developing this into a feature film. Okay.
Yeah, I
Do you
think.
have any timeline on when we might start seeing news about that?
Oh, no time, nothing. Can't commit to anything, but it is actively in development, and fingers crossed as soon as possible.
Okay, cool. Eric, how about you? Where can we find you online and learn more about all your projects and your puppet TV show? Because that sounds very intriguing.
Totally normalmedia.com.
Okay.
It's totally normal. It's okay.
Totally normal. It's normal. That's
Totally.
And Joe, where do we find you?
So the website, which is with all the different projects I'm involved with, is Spoil Productions, and we're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X, and also Two Forever Flowers is the other handle. And then if you want to just say hi to me as well, it's Joe Solomon 7.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you again for being here with me and talking about your films. We can't wait to see what you do next. And hopefully you make another Lovecraftian or cosmic horror film that we can show to our audience in the future. So thank you, everyone. And for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.